Wow, I could go a number of ways. First off, it was one. It shows that USC has a lot of resiliency, and that's for sure. Is that USC has shown once again that they're a very resilient team, and that they can really perform when it counts the most. And that was the biggest thing because it looked shaky at the beginning of the game. It looked like UCLA was going to run away with it. They had a lot of momentum on their side. It was 28-10, and you just thought USC was just lacking for a minute, all because of probably the fact that they already knew they clinched the Pac-12 South with Colorado losing, but once again they were able to fight back into the game. They were able to climb back, and they didn't give up at all. So that's something that stood out to me. Another thing is just the amount of missed tackles USC had. I know I don't like pointing out negative stuff here, but USC did miss a good, outstanding amount of tackles in this game. And it also showed me this game could have went either way. It could have been, UCLA could have came out of this game and blew out USC in this game, or USC with a few miscues, they could have, ran away with this game in the second half. But all in all, it was a thrilling victory for USC. And now they prepare for Friday for the Pac-12 championship game inside the Coliseum. Right now they say it's Washington. Of course, we got to watch to see what happens with with Washington's COVID cases with that program. But overall, just a thrilling game for USC.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was a tremendous game, and as you say, UCLA went out 28-10. USC comes back. Drake London had some amazing plays in the passing game. Drake Jackson on defense. Talanoa Ufanga with a tremendous interception and a lot of other great plays out of him. There was a sequence in which UCLA was stopped twice by the Trojans on 4th and 1, or 4th and short, both times I should say. And then the second time USC turns them over, then Keaton Slovis throws a wobbly high pass that gets deflected and picked off. And UCLA's in great shape after Tony Thompson-Robinson, who had a great game at one point, had twice as many touchdown passes, 4, as incompletions, 2, hits the tight end down the seam, and it's 35-23. And then USC comes back from that. So we've got a Friday Pac-12 championship game if we can get that Washington program healthy and cleared, hopefully, to get this one on the field.
Yeah, it's and they announced it, I want to say by halftime of the USC UCLA game, they announced that Washington and USC would play. And we knew that was going to be the case. It was just, is Washington going to be able to play? If Washington's not able to play, what happens with the Pac-12 championship game? Do you push it back so Washington is able to play? Do you push this? You can't push it to Sunday because that's when the committee meets and everything. I believe they meet on the 20th, I believe, right? So you can't push it back anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see what do they do. There's been conversation. I know a lot of the media has been speculating if Washington can't play, do you allow Colorado, who would be the second best, who would be the next best team? Would you eliminate the division standards and let Colorado play USC? And Mark, we talked about this earlier in the week, as a matter of fact, of the Colorado USC situation. So
that sounds like a good idea to me.
I mean, it's a lot of possibilities, but we do know USC is in. The game will be at the Coliseum on Friday. We do know as of now it's Washington. Will that
go ahead
change? We don't know.
Because as it stands right now in the Pac-12 North, So Washington 3-1, Oregon 3-2. So it would default to them because they're better than Stanford's 2-2. So there you go. If you stay with the divisions, then you still have Oregon in play against USC, or you could do what you just mentioned. Colorado lost today, but they have the second best record in the conference at 4-1. Interesting.
Correct.
Interesting. But yeah, if you're going to stay with Washington, I don't know really how you go about planning for that, because if it's not determined until late in the week that Washington can or cannot play, then you have to have those other teams on standby. And do they practice all week? And then I guess they're going to be practicing for an opponent anyway, because the Pac-12 is going to have this. And maybe that's what the Pac-12 and the Big Ten had in mind in setting up this championship weekend of a full slate of games, that if they did have to mix and match, that they wouldn't have a team that wasn't prepared to play because everybody's practicing awaiting an opponent. There you go. That
is correct. And I mean, it is interesting right now. You know, this is, again, with COVID and everything, it's made everything interesting. You know, the Pac-12 had a chance to go, you know what, we'll bypass the conference, the division, the normal north-south situation and go with the best two teams. Well, you would do that, but everybody was anticipating Colorado would win as well. Well, Colorado didn't end up winning. USC ends up winning just a few minutes ago. And that, you know, right now you're in that situation of, well, it has to be Washington and USC, because Washington does only have one loss. I believe they're 3-1 right now. And if they would have played, they would have played Oregon for the Pac-12 North. But right now, like we said, the way everything is right now, you have USC, Washington. It's gonna be an interesting game. My thing is just what's gonna happen with USC moving forward, you know, because again, you have this win. You have a huge win, a thrilling win over your rival, against a crosstown rival. Now you got to pull it back and come back down to earth and prepare to win the Pac-12 championship, to play for a Pac-12 championship. Can they get their minds in order for that? Because we have all seen the hangover effect, right? The emotional hangover effect from a game like this. USC needs to reel it back together and go, all right, we got it. We have to get back in order. We got to prepare for Washington. We got to prepare to play for a conference championship. That's our goal. If they win a conference championship, as it stands, you play in the Fiesta Bowl, because I think, and I know a lot of people have been talking about the Pac-12 chances at the college football playoff and and USC's chances for the college football playoff. In my opinion, and I said this at halftime, I think USC lost that argument in making a case for the college football playoff. And the reason I say that is because you needed to have two convincing wins. Blowing out UCLA would have been one. That would have been something right there to basically go, hey, we mean business. You guys need to look at us. I mean, going down by 18, coming back against UCLA, yeah, that's thrilling. But at the same time, is that convincing enough for the committee to go, we need to take another look at USC? Maybe that gets the conversation going if they blow out Washington, who would be a more formidable opponent. Maybe that will be something. But I think anything like in terms of making a case for the college football playoff, I think that's done right now for USC.
If USC is able to pull off a win in the Pac-12 championship game, regardless of how close it is or how much of a blowout, the committee's going to be caught in a situation in which they're going to have to decide between possibly a two-loss team and an undefeated team. Because right now, whether we've got a situation where Florida beats Alabama, or they're looking at a Big 12 winner that's already got two losses versus the Pac-12 winner. We know that Ohio State's only going to have 6 wins, and we can't assume they're going to win the Big Ten championship game. But otherwise, we don't have a discussion here. Let's say Ohio State wins; they're only 6-0. They're at the same spot as USC in regards to now they've been more dominant. They've won every game except one in blowout fashion, but and they came into this situation with a lot more respect and cred. But in just regards to the record and the conference championship, it's USC 6-0, Ohio State 6-0 with conference championships. So I would think that they would have to give USC some kind of consideration. I'm not saying that they're going to let them in, but at least.
It's interesting because everything you mentioned, and this was the argument that was made, I believe, by somebody on ESPN about last week, actually, I think during the BYU game, was that if you look at everything metric-wise, and let's go metric-wise, so let's take how Ohio State's been looking, let's take the eye test away and everything. If you go by the metrics, USC and Ohio State are neck and neck. They're very similar when you look at the metrics and everything when it comes to strength of schedule. I believe strength of opponent. I believe they're close. Like they're very similar. However, now we go into the eye test. Ohio State have by far looked dominant in their schedule. USC have not. USC had to have a comeback win against Arizona, had to have a game to the final second against Arizona State. So the comeback win against Arizona State, the down to the wire game against Arizona, against a winless Arizona team, a team who hasn't won in a year. And then you had the game against UCLA. So now it comes down to, all right, Ohio State's been looking dominant. There you go. If you want to get into, well, Ohio State has played 6 games and stuff, as just like USC will have played, I believe, 5 games. You want to get into all of that, then that's fine. But Ohio State have looked dominant, and that's the big point here. If USC wanted to seriously be in the conversation, if they wanted to be seriously in the conversation, they should have taken care of business against Arizona State, which that game we thought was, we thought Arizona would be better than what they are now. But take care of business against Arizona State, should have handled Arizona, and then you could live with the UCLA game if you take care of that. But end of the day, I mean, it's going to be very tough for USC to have a convincing argument, even if they blow out Washington in the Pac-12 title game. It's going to be very hard to have a convincing argument because now the argument now is, do you allow a 2-loss SEC team to get in? And that's the crazy thing. So, I mean, that's how it is.
Talking USC football with Matt Lowry from Conquest Chronicles on SB Nation. That's Conquest Chronicles on SB Nation. Just look them up right there. USC beats UCLA in a thriller, 43-38. Trojans 5-0, most likely take on Washington. That's the scheduled matchup. The Huskies won the Pac-12 North at 3-1, but we'll have to wait and see. As we just mentioned here, there could be 2 alternatives since the Huskies missed their game against Oregon this past weekend. We don't know what their testing situation is going to be like. And that's a Friday game, not a Saturday game coming up. So we are only, it's going to be Sunday here very soon. So basically 5 days away we are. So maybe Colorado's an option at 4-1 or the second place team in the North, Oregon, at 3-2.